first we'd like to thank everyone for coming, and thank you for making the short walk here. I'm going to start off by reading just a piece of our reflection, our class reflection that we did. It was done by those students who work here at the library. So, you can see that. Like Paso Boricua, the Andres Figueroa Cordero Library was space established to preserve culture, worldviews, and history. It's a storehouse of indigenous knowledge, which allows one to re-educate ourselves and others in ways that will foster liberation and self-determination. And this collection documents the struggles and work of people of color, which often have no place in traditional knowledge systems, and it has no place, more devastatingly, in the minds of common people. So by helping to create this unique space, we join indigenous movement efforts to make known the history of people of color, particularly the work of Puerto Ricans, for the benefit of students, community members, and all people of progressive thought. The work conducted by indigenous scholars resonates with the aims of the PRCC and GISLA student librarians, since we too support the task of revealing the indigenous experience, one that is too often appropriated by the official colonial accounts of history, which systematically write out those who dissent. So thus, we hope that others will continue to actualize the dream of creating a fully functional community library that engages people in novel ways. Andres Figueroa Cordero Library is named after one of the 5 political prisoners who was involved in the United States Capitol shooting incident of 1954. He was considered to be an innate lover of learning, voracious, avid reader. He's referred to as a Puerto Rican jibaro, which is a term that doesn't usually refer to an educator or someone who's educated. We know that Figueroa Cordero, he served, because of the incident in the U.S. Capitol, he served over 20 years in prison and then was released by Carter. But when he was released in 78, he had terminal cancer. So it was a year after, in 79, that the library was named after him. The library began, started early, as early as the PRCC in 1972. In the 1970s, a lot of books, about 70,000 books, were donated by Catholic schools. People have continued to donate books. We know Antonia Darder, she's contributed an entire copy of all of her books. The partnership with GISLA began about 7 years ago, and it started off really rudimentary with filling out paper forms, generic cataloging worksheets with information like title, author, resource type, genre, whether it was a photograph, an object, and with unambiguous IDs, a way to identify the books like ISBN numbers. The library overall divided into 3 sections: the collection, which was mostly donated by Joan Nicklin. She was an anthropologist who worked a lot with the Puerto Rican community. She died in the 80s. So, her collection mostly. Then the sala, which is the sala al Institut Corrected, which are, I think, these 2 cases here holding objects and photographs, newspapers, and Puerto Rican experiences. We'll take a look at those in a minute. And then the 3rd section of the library is El Rinconcito de Niña. So that's it's on the other side.
Further in here, yeah.
And it has bilingual books for children. And we'll just move in with the collection, really, a little bit more about the collection. So GISLA, about 7 years ago, partnered up with the PRCC, and there's this idea about creating a community-based library. So GISLA, PRCC, community leaders gathered together and began talking about labeling. They wanted something low cost that people have access to, that could be accessible to scholars all over the world. And so they started coming up with subject headings. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. So I'll wait a little bit. Okay. You want to go on with the collection?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, the collection was very, very large for a while. And this is part of the story I'm actually fairly unclear on, but at some point they weeded it down and decided that this needed to be a collection that was very, very focused on community needs. And so Joan Nicklins, the anthropologist who donated her library here, her collection sort of became the core of that. She had done a lot of work with developing countries and with the Puerto Rican community. So this library was weeded down to what it is today, which is essentially a collection dealing with political science and revolution, the developing world, and Puerto Rico, Latino issues, and history. And with that in mind, GISLA's students came as part of the Community Informatics program and helped the community members figure out a call number system and a subject heading language that would document this collection and make it usable and searchable and findable. Part of that was developing an online public access catalog. Initially, they were using something that they built through PerryNet, the forerunner to this. But the OPAC was proving hard to use, very slow. So with that in mind, they were looking for a new kind of program that they could transition over to. And that was when they found LibraryThing. So just can we do an informal poll and find out how many of you are library students? Or librarians? Okay, and how many of you have done some kind of cataloging, taken a course or done cataloging? Okay, how many of you have heard of LibraryThing or worked with it? Okay, good. So LibraryThing was chosen by the students here because it's easy to use. There's not a big learning curve for it. It is community-based. You can organize with people all around the world and share your books, share knowledge about the books, share information about them and metadata. And it's exportable. So if we ever decide to not use LibraryThing and go to a more official OPAC, we can take the data that we've done and not use it all and export it to another program. So LibraryThing itself, for those of you who don't know, is a social networking cataloging site. It's like the Facebook for libraries. You can import data about books, metadata from different libraries, from Amazon, and metadata, for those of you who don't know, is all of the data about a book, like who the author is, who the publisher is, what edition this book is, what language it was published in. It's all the stuff that makes a book findable in the library catalog. So it's searchable. You can just enter your book title that you have that's uncatalogued, find the data from another library, import it, and then we put in our own call number schema and subject heading language. So all of you have LibraryThing open on your computers. It should be open to the PRCC library web profile. So if you look there, you can see a bit about the mission statement of the library, the philosophical basis for it, what the social implications are of having this here, what they envision its use being. They hope that it's a very accessible space for young people of all ages to come and learn about Puerto Rican history, economic development, all these issues that are very relevant to them here in Paseo Puerto. So, let's see, for flash mob. A little bit first about what we've done so far. The library cataloging that's happened so far has been primarily done by Ann Bishop's Community Informatics classes here. This space is not the original home of the library. It was moved here a few years ago.
It was most recently housed in Vida, when the most division. Before that, it had moved around. This building actually opened just in earlier this year.
So when they decided to move it, they didn't have time to catalog all the books. They really only had time to put call numbers on the books. So they did that. They created the call number schema. They even have shelf numbers for all the books. So everything, we know everything that we have, in theory, but it's not in order on the shelves. There are about 10 more boxes of books that have yet to be entered into the library catalog. And as you can see, we're at a premium for shelf space in here. So what's up here now is mostly catalog thanks to this last semester of people in the Media Informatics Concepts class working many weekends. But they're not in order on the shelves. But having them in the LibraryThing catalog means that they're at least searchable. People can find out what materials we have here and can do some form of research with them. The challenge has been in doing this sort of episodic cataloging where we do it in a semester by semester basis and the cast of people doing it each time changes. But we have this wonderful LibraryThing cataloging manual that is also open on all of your computers. It's developed by previous Media Informatics students here. That's provided some degree of continuity in how we're approaching the project.